to Board Game Live. Yay! Woo! We're going to talk about all October making games. In particular, the skills required to successfully publish a game. And today's amazing guest is someone I would love to one day call a friend, Becky and Boothmate. I hope we're friends, but I don't want to be presumptuous. Are we friends, Becky?
Totally. If you text me, we're friends.
Oh, I love a rule. Like, I totally understand that we are friends because I get very excited to text you. And we're talking today about the skill of playtesting. So, playtesting, if you didn't know, is what you do after you write a version of the game and then you have people come and try it out so that you can learn things about what you just created. How do you like that as a definition, Becky?
I think that's a perfect definition.
Okay.
Yeah.
When was the first time you playtested something and were you nervous?
The first time I playtested something, I would say that, and this is probably bad to admit, but I never really playtested properly Rainbow Bunny Bop because I didn't really know that was a thing. And I was way too far down the road to then introduce playtesting into things. So I would say that the first time I playtested another person's game,
As a playtester or as a person who is...
As a playtester. So the first playtest as a playtester I've ever done, I think was at Funko. So for when Funko had games, for 2 years, I would take my daughter and her friends to the studio, maybe once every 2 months. And they'd be like, hey, this is the game we're testing. And they would test with the kids anything from something that's pretty much ready to go on shelf. They just wanted one final check to stuff that they wasn't really fully baked and you were really looking playing with pieces of paper. So I would say that was, I think, nervous going in, and then immediately when we started playing, I completely forgot that this was a thing to be nervous about, and then it was just playing and having fun. And I think the harder part was getting the kids to be honest, because they all just wanted to be really sweet and be like, I loved it.
All right, we're going to talk about that too. Night Owl Games said every play is a play test, and
yes,
Jared would certainly agree. Jared believes that no game is actually done, and therefore, and I hate the D word. You and I have spent some time in corporate America. And if you've ever produced anything or launched anything, you know done is a very bad word. It's almost as bad as final. Any word that you use multiple times, final, third final, final, done. None of that's good. With these, both your kids, do you have 2 daughters? Is that correct?
Oh, I just have 1 kid. And so we would gather other children.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So I knew you had at least a daughter. So I think the first time I play tested something must be the early 80s. I didn't know that was a thing at the time,
right.
But I wrote a thing and then you had to play the thing, and I had this idea. And so we're talking about 50 some years of learning today on the live. Hey, welcome everybody. We're talking about playtesting as a skill if you're interested in making or publishing games. All right. I let you know this topic, Becky.
Yes.
What is your first skill in and around playtesting that you think people should be aware of? Or you can also have questions I'm going to let you have the first one, and then I will take the second one.
I think probably the best skill set, and this is why I don't feel so bad that I didn't play test Rainbow Bunny Bop, is just the art of observation. So just observing how people are interacting and clocking joy moments or clearly frustrating moments and then making iterations just based on those observations. So like you don't actually have to ask someone, "Hey, did you like it or not?" You can usually tell, right? Like if they,
You can usually tell because you have a high EQ. I'm
yeah.
a person who looks like this and has been doing this for a long time. I have to ask.
If you sat down at a table, you wouldn't be able to tell if people were like having like genuine moments of uninhibited joy at like parts.
Did I tell you the story about one of the hardest end of the line like convention booth demos ever?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I was selling Atlas is our distribution partner, and I was selling End of the Line during its initial sales cycle at Origins. And at Origins at the time, they used to have two booths. I got time in their like out in the playtest area booth, and I got time in their booth. And this happened in the booth. Okay, so Origins at that time, and it changes every year. Father's Day, Pride, Free RPG Day, and Free Family Day all coincide at Origins in Columbus, Ohio on the same day.
On the same day. Crazy.
Okay? So, this guy came in with his family, and it was this 7-year-old girl, her 11, or she was probably 9 at the time of the story. She was 7 when she won the world championship of one of these Atlas games. Called Three Cheers for the Masters. But I think she was 9 at the time. Her sister, who was 13, and her brother, who was like 14, 15. Okay? And they were clearly people of different levels of engagement with humans. Okay? We had the oldest son who spent his entire time during this demo running to the other booths and then running back on what he reported. Okay. We had the 13-year-old, 14-year-old daughter looking at her phone the other time, only looking up quietly to take her turn. And then we had the little 9-year-old girl who would not stop yelling at her siblings because she wanted to play the game, and she had to herd them to make sure that they were playing the game. Okay?
Painful.
So this was I smiled, and it was like 25 minutes. I smiled through it and gave each person the attention they needed when they needed it. And after 25 minutes, this little girl looked up at her dad and said, "Can we get this?" And he looked at the other two, and the kid who was in everybody else's booth but our own looked at me and said, "You gave us the best demo of the entire convention." And then the little girl, and the last purchase is the person who was on her phone the entire time. The dad looks at her, and she just curtly nods. And so they bought my game of post-apocalyptic family survival. So, though I 100% agree with Becky's summation that you should be practicing your skill of observation to look for moments of emotion or tension in your design, which is perfect, you never know what people have going on. Like,
that's true.
And I think gaming is disproportionately higher neurodivergent or socially people than other social groups.
Yeah. Well, I guess the second skill then is the ability to take.
We're just gonna blow over that.
Yeah. No, because power of observation is still good because sometimes people don't articulate what maybe their outward appear like. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Basically, you have to have the observation piece, but you also have to take the things with a grain of salt because there are going to be situations where it didn't matter if the kid who was running from booth to booth liked your game because that kid's obviously not engaged with games. Like he clearly doesn't like games, or like the girl on her phone. Like that girl's never going to be super engaged because she's more interested in her phone. So like,
or is she? Like,
I don't know.
you don't
Maybe.
know. Like,
Yeah.
everybody interacts with reality different. Like, I know a lot of people who use their phone as an anxiety mechanism, or as a people would use fidget spinners. It is a thing. You would like people to be fully present, but
Right.
the skill that I would definitely say, and because I'm not dismissing what you're saying, finding your audience is very important skill, and choosing your playtesters is critically important. But understanding that what other people have going on isn't always about you. Like, I think the skill that I would put forward first for people to embrace is understanding that the thing that you are making isn't a value judgment on you as a person, or even you as a game designer.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like someone can like me and hate the games I make. Those two things can be true. Conversely, people can hate me and love the games I make and then feel conflicted.
Yeah, that's true. But the deal is, you are looking at us like, if you did not do this in other academic pursuits or creative pursuits, understanding like creating an environment for growth and critique, where people can speak their mind without you being crushed by it, is really important.
Yeah. Can I tell you a story? Like not about playtesting, but it reminded me of like in corporate America, like what is equivalent to playtesting. I used to work on a marketing team at BlackBerry, and whenever we would do stuff, the CMO would be like, Becky, this isn't good until you've walked it over to the finance ladies and you just put it in front of them and you ask them to repeat back to you what it means. Because if they can't figure this shit out on their own without your help, then there's no hope for everyone else out in the world. So like my job was always like, I have to like trudge over to the finance ladies, or like my mom, he was like, if you can't get to them, send it to your mom. If she doesn't understand it, you have to get back. You have to do it again. And that was like, all right, yeah. So I'm definitely used to the like, even though I think what I made is absolutely perfect, you have to like give it down.
You made it,
like,
Becky. I would think it's perfect too. I think it's great. The skill that is directly translatable from your BlackBerry lady story to this is give me the hook of your game. Give me your promise of fun. I think that skill is essential. If you aren't able to, in 3 seconds, tell people what kind of fun they're going to be inspired with, you are doing yourself a great disservice. So one of the playtesting skills, which is on the like luge of fun, the inevitable end to obvious joy, is getting somebody onto the luge as quickly as possible. And the way you do that is get your hook or your promise of fun done.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't have my promise of fun, I don't think, for my new game. I need to work on that.
Well, this is really in your skill, like your skill set to be able to articulate very succinctly why somebody wants to do this. You have decades of experience on it.
Yeah. When I put in the work. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be, so you had be able to observe and look for moments of emotion and tension. I think that's so good. If you can denote that and you can look for trends where these emotional points are hitting, and understand you should be designing for emotional points, that is so good. That is so far down the line. Number 2, like yours was identify your audience. Is that correct?
I think someone else had put that in the comments, but I 100% agree. Or I said like a flavor of it. Like everything's not for everyone, so take things with a grain of salt. But yeah, like I would never play test. I would play test my new rainbow tile game with heavy Euro board gamers if they wanted to play it. But the feedback that they give me, I'm gonna kind of like, I'm probably not gonna take it all. And I've definitely had people like play Rainbow Bunny Bop and be like, this needs more stuff. And I'm like, it doesn't, though. It's not a Euro, so it doesn't need more stuff.
I want more stuff that is very different than this needs more stuff, right? And
yeah.
I'm terrible at your game, but I love watching you play it.
Yeah, and there's some people that are terrible. The best thing about my games are they're maybe meant for people who think they don't like games. Because, like, the best pitch is, like, I'll be like, hey, do you want to demo my game? And people are like, I'm just here with my boyfriend. I don't really play games. I'm like, then you'll like this one. And that they usually do. Because they're like, oh, I have this concept of games that they're, like, hard and complicated and take forever. And I'm like, no, there's still, like, the easy casual games. We still exist. You know where to look. So
we have a number of our regulars here. Scott Brushwood is here. Hey, Scott. DG Walker was talking about how his phone face in his phone isn't a indictment of whether or not your game is fun or not. He will have whole conversations that way. And we, of course, had Andy remind me that the term is just neurodiverse.
Oh, what did you say? Neurospicy?
I like neurospicy, or filled with people who are neurodivergent.
Oh, I think you said divergent. Is there a nuance between those two phrases?
Yes, probably. Yes, it is neurodiverse. And so there's probably things, thank you for correcting me and help me be better at this. So for folks who are just showing up, my amazing guest is, of course, Rainbow Bunny Bop Seppy. And today's topic is the skills needed to make the most out of playtesting. If you ever want to make or publish a board game, there are a host of skills, and we're going to be talking about those all October. Okay? So, all right, Becky. So you were talking about skills that are practiced.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? What about skills that you need to warm up to playtesting, or skills that you think are for the setup, the organization, the regular?
I see, like the preparation type things that need to happen. Is that what you're saying? Like to be able to do a playtest? Well, I think you need a prototype. That's the thing you need for sure. And the closer to the experience, I think that you can get your prototype, the better. I think if anyone's play tested with just like pieces of paper before, it's a different experience than like, the person went to Michael's and they got like wooden tiles and they colored on the wooden tiles. Like I think a lot of people will disagree with me that you should do that. I like crafting, so I think it's important. And I also, like, as someone who's playing other people's games, I sometimes have a hard time getting into it if the components are not the normal components of the paper. Like,
all right. So
I don't know.
Again, the chat is like, it is diverse, and diverse is important because it's more inclusive and less negative. Sorry if I miss it's been a long week. I will do better.
I can top your bad week. I have two guys right now digging a trench outside of this window because poop is backflowing into our tub.
That's really bad. As someone who's had the city sewage flood their basement apartment, I understand how terrible that is. Yes. Yeah, but that was a long time ago. All right, so skills that you need, and we'll talk about prototyping too. Understanding that your prototype, the focus for your prototype needs to be clarity. You do not want to over-engineer or over-produce your prototype because you should feel comfortable changing it.
Right.
But simultaneously, if it's too janky, people won't understand what's going on or respect your effort.
Yeah.
So you are looking for a level of clarity for your audience, and the more playtesting normal that a person is, the more low rent your prototype can be, and the more raw it can be. But if you are testing games for people who haven't discovered that they're gamers yet, it needs to be way more buttoned up.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and the current game that I'm playtesting, most of the people that I've signed up or that have been like, yeah, I want to do it, have never playtested in their lives. And some of them are like, oh, I didn't know there were games besides Monopoly. I want to give this a try. And I'm like, oh my God, you're the perfect playtesters for me.
All right, so that is definitely one of those skills, and we touched on it a little bit earlier. Identifying who the game is for and being able to find and get those people to your playtest is a skill.
Yeah.
Just because my perfect story for that is Sailor Moon. Do you know the anime Sailor Moon?
Obviously.
So Sailor Moon as a kids TV show failed in Japan. But what they ended up finding out is college-age dudes we're watching it. We're watching it. And so you can see this you can see this shift in the original anime, like as they discovered who was actually embracing their show. Okay. Do you ever play tests with alternate rules? Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was an easy answer. Next.
No, like one proto spiel, the skill with alternate rules is make it seem seamless to the playtesters, like that this has always been the rule.
I think that's good advice that I will now take in the future.
There was a proto spiel when I was doing Hedgehog Hop, and Hedgehog Hop is not overly complicated, but I changed the rules 28 different times for 28 different playtests, that proto spiel.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
on the fly. Yeah.
Because then you got to zone in on like the perfect combination of rules that create the tension and the joy and all the things. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The overall goal of a playtest for you, if you're starting out, I think people fixate too much on making a thing. The thing is a byproduct of the skills that you have. A game is a product of your joy. If you focus on joy and the joy of your players, you will ultimately make an amazing thing. It might take you longer.
Yeah.
In the case, 9 years. It might take you 3 weeks. Like, all these things are real things. So, being joyful during a playtest, it leads us to the next skill that I think everybody should be thinking about. And any guesses what that is, Becky?
Is it about being open to all types of feedback?
That's a good one. No, we're going to put a pin in that one.
Okay.
But I love that as a guess. It is about, and I think if you are very interested in making games or publishing games specifically, it is food. We'll talk about that later.
Yep. I am hungry.
It's about turning playtesters into fans.
Yes. Yeah.
If someone is invested enough in the evolution of it and they feel like they had some part of being there, it is an important thing to have steps for them so that they can take steps closer to you as a community and as a publisher. So the skill that I would say that isn't obvious to everyone that they should think about for playtesting is how you let playtesters take a step closer to your title and closer to your community.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Okay.
Consumer motivators and customers all in one. Yes, Zazu. Exactly.
We love Zazu. Thank you for making it. Everybody, thank you for coming out. So, Becky, do you have another skill that you want to either talk about? Any questions? Like, or I will go on to my next one. I like it when you talk, and I like it less when I talk.
Well, because the answer, like my incorrect answer to your question was having an open mind. Can I tell you about a playtest situation that if people are playtesting, what to avoid?
Yes.
Okay, so I was at an industry night, and at these industry nights, often you will play 2 to 3 games, other people's games. And the first game I played was called Chicken Fried Dice, and I was having a fucking.
Oh, should we be dropping names, Becky?
I'm not going to drop names from the other one, but Chicken Fried Dice. This is a good one. I was having a blast. Okay. I was loving it. Like it was like everything I wanted in a game. It was like rolling, and it was chaos, and I was having a blast. But the other playtester was not. He was having a terrible time. He didn't like it. He didn't like the chaos. Like it wasn't a good game for him. And because he was having such a bad experience, it started to like pull down the experience for the rest of us that was playing, which was kind of like not cool. And then his advice was just like, he just wanted to talk about mechanics that he thinks a game called Chicken Fried Dice should have that were like completely different, because he didn't like it. Even though he, as someone who's playtesting next, he didn't have the observation. Like 3 of the 4 of us though had a great time. So maybe there was something there. So we did that. Fast forward to his game. It was his turn. I won't tell you who. It was a big publisher though, just saying. And it was the playtesting was, it was a type of game I'm not good at, but I'm always like willing to like try and learn. And he yelled at me the entire time because I made choices on my turn that were not like the choices that you should make, but like based on like this, I was like, and at the end I was like, listen, like I get that you were frustrated with me because I wasn't making the types of choices that you would have made in this game. I was like, but I have news for you. People like me exist, and like people like me will get games like this, and this is how we're going to play it because this is how we play these types of games, and like it might be wrong, but like you need to understand how everyone plays these games. And so it was weird that he wasn't able to grok that like the difference between like him not having a good time and like maybe it wasn't a game for him or whatever, and then like him not being able to understand that there are different types of gameplay. It was terrible.
Let's
so don't
uncouple.
Never yell at your playtesters ever.
I would say 3. Let's uncouple. You made 3 different, distinctly great points. Number 1, to promote fun, don't yell at the people. Okay. Number 2, there is literally no wrong way to play your game.
Right. Yes.
There's literally no wrong way to play it because you're not going to be there to defend it. That mindset that you have given somebody the genesis of fun, and it is on them now, is at the core of the difference between being a game master or a dungeon master, and where you're there refereeing the experience, and being a game designer. A game design, it's got to speak for itself. Okay. Number 3 is preserving this mindset. And I actually think this is great for your day-to-day life, your corporate life, and whatever. It is humans are, even if they're neurodiverse, humans are inherently empathic creatures. Whatever you're putting out into the environment, other people are picking up. So if you are happy or you are excited, you are putting that into the environments that you yourself are participating in, right? So the energy that this guy had for one playtest, because it moves on to the next playtest. Okay?
Yeah.
One important thing that folks need to know in any organized playtest settings where you are not putting on an event for your own things to be play tested, but going to something where you are either play testing other people's designs or some open forum, it is very often that you one person tests the game and then the next person at the table brings their game and you go around. You, at a minimum, should expect to play as many games as you run.
Yes. That's another thing that I've noticed a little bit at the playtesting thing that I go to, is that some people aren't really like the best at the give and take. They're like, hey, playtest my game. And then you're like, okay, let's do this one over here now. And they're like, nah. And you're like, no, but we just did 30 minutes on your game. So you kind of have to pay it forward. I would say it's like not even 1-to-1. It's just sort of like, if you have a 4-player game that you're testing, then you need to play four other people's games.
So
I don't know.
At Protospiel, no, you are 100% correct. At Protospiel, Minnesota, to make sure that our games as a unit, I bring 3 other people with me, and I send them out to go play other people's games.
That works too, as long as you're giving back as a whole.
Yeah, you've got to give back to the community that you're in, and if you are, there is different set of rules for a private playtest event versus a public one. All right, Zazu has a question. Becky, what is Zazu's question?
Well, he asked it twice too, so he really wants an answer. Do you curate your playtest participants, especially if publishers are afoot? I think. Have you ever? You don't get other publishers to pick up your games, do you, Seppy? Like I never have, so I don't know.
I occasionally take other people's games that impress me to publisher friends of mine.
Ah, okay.
You know, Nick is doing like Jewels for the Emperor Penguin. That's a game that he's helping Jeff out with. Left Justified promoted.
Oh, Left Justified, yeah. Okay, cool.
So that came with me from Protospiel San Francisco to the Twin Cities, and I took it in front of Floodgate, who does Sagrada, Atlas, and then Atlas didn't want it, so Jeff ended up picking it up himself and some other places. So occasionally I will do that. As far as curating who can sit down at your table, I have 2 examples of this, Zazu. Would you like to hear them?
I would, but I actually want to know why the publisher being in the mix matters. So I have a follow-up question to Zazu. Is there a reason why, if publishers are afoot, you would want to curate the list besides just curating because you need the right types of playtesters? But go.
All right. First of all, you very Becky hit the nail on the head and then ran away. Like, number one, if you are trying to establish, I should speak more slowly and stop yelling. If you are trying to establish a relationship with publishers, you want to be fun and you want to be to the point. If you know people are supportive of the experience that publisher would like to have, it's more than fair to give them the best experience possible. Okay, because you know their time is precious, your time is precious. Getting the overlap of that to happen can be understandable. I certainly have, with reviewers, dropped in super fans into my demos with reviewers so that the reviewers were going to have the maximum fun because they had an environment of people who were already on board and did not need extra attention and were going to have the vibe of fun that you wanted them to have.
I understand now. Yeah, I think like if you are playtesting and there is someone that you need to woo besides players in the mix, you can get other people who are familiar with how to play the game and already come like hyped and full of joy and can also support in like answering the questions, then that's
all right. Let's answer Alex's question and then I'm gonna go back to Zazu because I promised him another story.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You
Okay,
said 2 stories.
so go ahead and Alex's question.
Oh, what's the best way to play? So I would say, uh, people are definitely asking me, like, hey, when are you going to put your game on Tabletop Simulator so I can play test it? I have not done that yet, but I think that is a very good way to do it. Because my game is small and compact, I'm just making them and sending them out in the world. Because I'm at the point where I also just want to see if people like can open the box unguided, read the instructions, get it on the table, and have fun. Um, so
That's
I would,
amazing. Blind
but then
testing
you
is
have
the most important.
then you have to trust that like they give you written feedback that is understandable and you can make decisions off of. So I think you probably need a mix of both, but TTS is good for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
if Alex wanted to play test my game and we could figure out a way, my game doesn't work for this, but like he has a prototype, I have a prototype, and we try to play live on IG, and that's a possibility. Like you could probably do that with like, I don't know. There are some games that would work for.
Yeah, it's true. You should try to do virtual tests. You should pick up the skills. Like TTS is a whole host of little skills, and
Yeah.
it's weird. It's
I've already
worth it
built
right
something
now.
on TTS. I've learned that skill, not like meh. It
Yeah,
didn't bring me
like
joy.
it will bring you joy, but being able to do it quickly and being able to play with anyone at any time, that is very, very useful. What about if you have a component that won't fully work digitally? That happens occasionally. You should not try to do it on TTS if it doesn't. Otherwise, um, you can send them a physical version of it and you can do a hybrid halvesies. But we're really trying to understand at this point what you are losing in the digital translation of your game. Okay?
Yeah.
When you TTS a game, TTS is going to hurt you in about 60% of the ways. It's going to be neutral in about 20% more of the ways, and it's going to be really helpful in 20% of the ways. The number one asset of it is rapidly being able to have something right in front of you and being able to share it with anybody that you can have a conversation on the internet with. So those are the amazing things about that. All right, so
But I would say you should figure out how you can get in front of real people. It's just way easier to play test a game, physical, real, like prioritize that is my advice.
I'm going to double down on what you're saying, but maybe slightly differently. You definitely want to do it in person as much as possible because that real life connection is worth so much more to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really, really, really is. People who show up regularly or people that you can see in person, those are the two things. And so TTS allows you to do the former, but the in-person, yeah, that's real.
Yeah.
All right, so Zazu, we have a second story. And
right.
In any community, you're going to have people who you vibe with, and you're going to have people who aren't a good mix for the kind of fun that you're trying to produce. Now, I'm telling this story because I had actually promised it to a Mondo video, but I didn't do it because it was too negative. And so here it is.
Here it is.
All right. So, Becky, I think I've told you this before. I think you've heard this story. It is about the worst playtest experience that I've ever had. Did we talk about this?
No, but I shared mine, so it's your turn. So
all right. So at one of the early protospiels, when we were doing the first edition of End of the Line right now, by the way, is in late pledge if you wanted to do that.
Nice plug.
Yeah. Oh, and worst plug. Today is the absolute last day to order Conquest Princess if you want to get it with the Kickstarter and GameFound backers. If you want it when everybody else gets it, today at midnight. That's it. You should think about it. Support the channel. Now, That being said, the absolute worst. Did you see how I created that moment of tension and put the commercial right there?
That was an integrated. I would call that an integrated sponsorship.
It was really good. I was practicing. I was showing my marketing tension for you. All right, so
very good.
We're doing end of the line, and this guy comes back, and we're not going to use his name, but maybe we should.
I didn't use names.
This guy comes back, and he sits down, and he's playing my game. Like, he had not wanted to sit down and play it before, and when it came up with, you said earlier, hey, do you want to try this? He was like, no, despite the fact that we did all this other stuff, but he sat down and played this. So he had already sort of poo-pooed the thing. Okay. We go through the whole game, and it gets to, and we're doing a round robin feedback style. And he looks at me and goes, I think I like the game. I think it's you I don't like. And I just like, and I look at him, I'm like, I can understand that. And then I move around and back to the circle of the table. And every time it came back to him, he doubled down and gave a detail about me that made him hate me. So it started with, you're a used car salesman. Stop over trying to sell the experience. Then it got to, you're too loud. What are you smiling about?
What a interesting experience for you.
So, to the question, Zazu's original question, should you curate your table?
Yeah.
There are absolute perfect reasons. Like the person that you interacted with, Becky, I would not sit down at or with. They are just not a good fit for the kind of fun you're having, right? And you never know what kind of thing a person has going on, right? But like, there were 6 details. Like, it came back 6 times. Like, he had any amount of opportunity to read the room, Becky, that nobody else was on board with this. And he was just doubling down and tripling down on the details about me that bugged the crap out of him.
You should. Did he give you like some color advice too? Like, orange is the color. That's why I don't like this game.
Like,
that is.
It's not like I had like an old guy misstep about things that I should correct. As you saw, I will correct it, and I will, like, myself as somebody who is bipolar and dyslexic, I will make communication errors all the time. And Becky, you've hung out with me in a booth for like 3 days. You understand, sometimes I say words and you're like, I don't think that means what you think that means. It is very odd for a human of my age who grew up before the internet to live in a culture where people feel like they can't make mistakes. I'm a person who is always making mistakes. Like, yeah,
that's like life's joy.
And that is one of the things that, back to today's topic, which is skills for playtesting, is making mistakes and being inspired by the joy. As Bob Ross, the famous Bob Ross, says, happy accidents.
Yeah.
Being open to happy accidents in and around playtesting. I can't tell you the number of times that I sat down and ran a game, and somebody misinterpreted my rule, and their interpretation was inherently more intuitive, and I said, that's what we're going with. Like, this was always the idea. Like, I had designed it completely other, but they had just inherently, for lack of interacting, this is how it felt like it should act. They gave me the answer that I did not even know that I was looking for.
Yeah, I love those happy accidents where it's like, it was never there in your brain. And then someone's like, here it is. And you're like, that's what has been missing.
Of course. Of course. Like the first time I played the crew or scout, I slapped myself on the forehead so hard I'm like, of course, yes, 100% yes. Like, these games make so much sense because you can intuit the answer from a lifetime of playing cards and other stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You mean
So,
this game?
oh my god, the graphic design on that game is awful, but the gameplay of it is wonderful. Next question. Do you want to take David's question, or do you want me to read it?
How do you respond in the moment when you are given unexpectedly good, bad feedback? Uh, Bad feedback is always just like a straight up polite thank you. Oh, thank you. And maybe a pretend writing the note in my book.
What is
Oh,
bad feedback? That's a great definition. Becky, what do you consider to be bad feedback?
I would say bad feedback is something that is like, well, about your personality, right? Like has nothing to do with the game. I guess that's good feedback on how you can conduct a playtest in the future, but bad feedback. I've had someone say that my game smells weird. Like, okay, it's not relevant. I guess bad feedback is when the feedback isn't relevant to.
Yeah, I think when it's not actionable, that you can't do anything about it, that for me is feedback that I can't do anything with.
I need to pause for a second because I think the poop trenchers just ring the doorbell. So
that's my second favorite quote for the day.
Keep talking.
Yeah, go do the thing. All right, so everybody, I want to share with the live my favorite board game quote of the week. I have a couple of side gigs to make stuff happen, and I do client work. And in one of these client meetings, this came across, and it was so perfect. If you know, you know. But if you don't, please ask. In all seriousness, someone said to me, "We are going to keep it in Dwarven, so I don't have to worry about localization." And I was like, that is amazing. Do you understand what I said, Becky? Does that make sense to you?
Keep it in Dwarven so that we don't have to localize, which I'm guessing means you were playtesting a game, you're like, this doesn't make any sense because it's got nonsense in it. Oh, that.
Let's talk. This is not for Mouse Cheese. But Mouse Cheese is the most overproduced $13.50 in gaming. And one of the things that makes it so crazy overproduced is this rule book and all the variant play. Well, we have localized in Chinese and Hungarian. Well, if you didn't know, there's a puzzle mode to the game where you can just assemble it like a puzzle. And there are hints all through this rule book. Well, like little news articles and other things are in the background of this book. Our Hungarian localization partner wanted all the files for all the news clips and everything else to translate every little scrap of paper and every other little bit of something into Hungarian.
That's a lot. That's a lot of translation.
It is a lot of extra. And so if you have a game and it has other stuff going on, and some of that stuff is Klingon or Elvish, or in this case, Dwarven, I want to keep it in Dwarven so it doesn't, like, it never has to get translated. That's a real concern.
Yeah. Well, that's why Scout's good, because Scout doesn't really have, you can play it, you don't need to, I guess the rule book just needs to be translated, but like, it's just numbers.
Oh, I guess that term is called language agnostic. When your game is printed language agnostic, and Fighting Robot games are, that means it does not matter what language this is in. Okay? And that's a feature for getting it to be localized in other countries. So Alex had another question. You want to take it for us, or you want me to read it?
Yeah, he's just asking how, or I shouldn't assume. Alex is asking, how do you organize and what is the cost? So, and how many times do we do these? I am fortunate enough to live in a city where basically any day of the week there is a place where I could go with my game and play test with other people. Because I'm surrounded by board game stores and they all host a different industry night, a different day of the week. So I think like look for look for Facebook groups or whatever and to see if you can find one locally. But then I would say that like if you don't, honestly, like going to a local pub with your game and then maybe other games and just getting it started organically, like bring some friends, like start it off with some friends and then I don't know. From my experience, when I see people playing games at a pub, I go up to them like, "What are you playing? Is this fun? Whatever."
Bucky, you have amazing social skills, and everybody wants to include you. I don't know if that advice translates to others, but your
I'm
advice.
just like in my old lady era, where you just talk to everyone around you. You know, like talk in the grocery line.
But your advice does stand. Any place where board games are being played, you can make a play, depending on your game. Like if your game is a heavy Euro, you might need to go to places that are specific for that. So free events that are around board games that you can translate into that, as long as you can get at least one person that you know to sit down at the table, you can get other people roped in. So try that. In the Twin Cities, we have 2 different Protospiels, and then we have one-day Protospiels. But also, my industry friends will have private internal test days. Like we have one of those once a week, so for the whatnot. Now, if you need to do this, go back to build your community. I used to, before the dark era, feed people burritos to give them, have them give me feedback on our games. So this was particularly good for, again, a different type of curated group to sit down at my table. If folks have not done this and done like an all women test, an all gay test, like had different groups, like inherently, if you do not belong to a group and you can sit down and let that group interact like you are invisible in the wall, you will learn a lot more about how other gamers game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Observation. See?
It's true. Like, it was mind-blowing to me the couple of times I did all women playtests, all women fan of our playtest, and they inherently played our games differently.
Yeah. And if it's you know, one person who's maybe not the same as everyone else, it might be played differently than like if it's a group of all women or whatever. Yeah. Well, so another answer for Alex is if you are the type of person who wants to do the work to put together an event, like I did that at the beginning for Rainbow Bunny Bop. I was like, I need to host a game conference in my neighborhood. And I went to the community center and I was like, how much does it cost to rent out this space for 8 hours? And they're like $50. And I was like, cool. And I went to the game store. I was like, would you sponsor this for $50? And they're like, sure. So they sent the check in. And then I just posted on Facebook and in forums of like, hey, do you want to demo your game at my event that I'm running? And then I got like 20 people to say like, yes, I want to bring my game to your stupid event. And I did it for 3 years. And it was a great way to...
Was it stupid? I don't think it was stupid back then.
It wasn't. It was great. And people still ask, like, when am I going to do it again? But it felt kind like now that I've been doing
your Gen X was showing, like...
Right? Yeah, like I don't have that attitude about everything.
I don't know. I just did this thing and
I did a thing that was like not even that good or whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Zazu said he likes it when creators ask for specific feedback that they're looking for in a playtest. What's our take? I think that's this. Yeah, you go.
All right, let's talk about some other concrete advice to finish up the hour. Number 1, you should start a playtest with the goals that you want and let people know. After you like, hey, welcome to the playtest, here are my goals, and then you start and then ask if anybody have any questions beforehand, and then you start with your teach, and your teach should start with how the game ends and how people win, right? These two things should bookend each other and have the same structure, okay? You should have questions prepared. And the number of questions that I like is 7 to 8 questions or maybe 5 to 8 questions. All right. And one of them and should be about the quality of fun or quantity of fun that they had, however you want to put that. And the last one should be, would you like to sign up for my newsletter?
Always a salesman.
No, you've gotta give people a easy way to take a step closer to you.
Yeah,
Or
you're right.
like, in all honesty, depending on what you're doing, what you're selling, whatever it is, a newsletter sign up is $3 to $8. Right?
Yeah.
And this is a chance for those people to like pay for their burrito. like it is a real thing. So those two things should be in your question pool and so forth and whatnot, right? And when you go to big events like PAX Unplugged is coming up or Game Hole is coming up and you run things, you should also have those opportunities for people to step closer to you or give you their opinions about things that you can deal with. The next most very important thing is, and this is from Kurt from Smirk and Dagger. I was on a panel with him, and you should very much embrace this. Do not take individual feedback as a stab to the heart.
Yeah.
Individual feedback has very little value unless it inspires you. If it inspires you, that's great. That thing sparked joy in me. That sparked whatever it is. But if you're looking for something that's wrong or to change or to improve, you are rather looking for trends. And this does a couple of things because this means I've got to do things multiple times, multiple ways, and you understand that play tests are not one-off. Like, look at that.
Those are my themes that I got to work on.
Right? So you're looking for trends. All right? Oh, David is still mad at me. Like, one of the meanest things I said to a game designer in recent history, I said to David.
What did you say? Did you call him an answer too?
No, I asked David, like, how brutal can I be? And David face tanks anything. He's like, he is fearless. And he should not have been fearless. Like, nobody should have this unfiltered. Becky, you know that. Like, this is not something that people should drink from the fire hose.
True. Moderation is key. So you told David that his game was good for the 70s?
I said, this would be a perfectly fine game design in 1970.
How rude. What was the game? You better not have said that about Hedgehog Hop, because that game is great.
You mean Hedgehog Hop is my game, and I can say anything I want about my game, Becky. It literally says Hedgehog Hop on it. Like,
what's David's? David has a Hedgehog game. Hedgehog or
it's Hedgehog Hurry.
Hedgehog Hurry.
Literally have it written on my wall. Yeah. David and I had interacted a number of times. This is the second time he and I had interacted, and I had asked for permission. Like, you know, consent is mandatory and sexy, but sometimes with brutal ramifications. So, Becky, we're here in the wrap up. This hour flew by.
It sure did.
Was this the easiest poop trenching hour of your week?
It gave me something to think about that wasn't poop trenching, so yeah.
What can people expect from you? How can people play your game? Yeah, absolutely.
Good question. Well, if anyone wants to play test my tile game, which is here, I'm making prototypes and just sending them to people. I'm happy to make more prototypes. I'm looking though mostly for people who could play test with kids. Because it's a family game. 4 and up? 8 and up? No, 8 and up.
12 and down under? Like, be specific. Kids, there's a whole range of kids.
Yeah. 8 and up.
I currently think anybody 35 or under is kids.
Right, yeah. I just want to make sure that I have enough feedback on how children are playing and perceiving the game so it can be a good family game. And because I can play test with adults easily, like that part I've got sorted. It's that other cohort that I just need. I need their blessing. I need their seal of approval.
That is a very a family game. I think is for everyone, but a game for kids, I actually think is a different animal.
Yeah,
so,
this isn't a game for kids. It's a game for families, but I need to make sure that families include children, so children should be able to play it, or at least a version of it.
Yeah, or a version of it, and we'll talk more about that. That is absolutely great. So, for folks who are fans of the live, next week we're going to go to the opposite end of the spectrum. We're going to go to the skills you need for fulfillment.
Nice.
Our special guest is going to be Games with Gabe, and we're going to talk about how you get, after people give you money, how you get those games to the whole world and what you need to make that happen. Yes, I've used that many a time. So if that interests you or you need to understand pain points, risk, and that kind of stuff, come join us next week for that. Otherwise, remember, this helps support the live, and also this is the very last day. If you care about games that star female or non-binary main characters, or you think women should be the main characters in games, think about this.
I like that you went women.
Women. I think that way.
Oh, this hand motion was that you're thinking.
I'm a person who think women should be main characters. Like, don't you think that women should be main characters in games?
We are. We just don't let you know it. We're living a whole other universe where we're the boss.
It's true. The fashion verse it's a place, and I'm both horrified that they are going to do a reboot of Barbarella. So that is, oh yeah, it's probably going to be terrible, but I'm excited about it nevertheless. All right, Becky, final thoughts. This was a great discussion. Thank you for shaping the month. If people didn't know, I had an amorphous set of guests, and then Becky really said, I want to talk about this, and so that helped me solidify my month. Alex, thank you for bringing some great questions. David, thank you for sharing your pain. Zazu, thank you for giving us points of discussion. Sonia, everybody who shows up on the regular, I appreciate you. All right.
And Alex must be on the East Coast. So if anyone has ideas for East Coast Alex on how he can playtest his game, you should follow him and share with him.
If Alex is on East Coast, the Wednesday board game live is always 3 p.m. Central. That's my time. So if you are on the East Coast, it will be 4 p.m. It happens every week. I've been pretty regular about this.
I think so. I think you've only missed a couple to take a moment so that you can focus on important things like getting your game shipped.
Yeah, that's coming up. If folks don't know, the shipping crisis is real. Not only do we have a Canadian rail crisis, now we have an East Coast dock worker crisis, and so it is, the shipping crisis is trying to kill me, Becky.
Yeah, maybe that should be your lives. It's like hot this week in board game drama, and we just talk about
I'm post-adult. I really just wanted to make games and spread joy and laughter, but the universes keep on telling me, Seppy, you need to be a project manager. You need to help people with crisis management. You need to, and I'm like, no, universe. No, I just want people to laugh with me or at me. I don't care which.
Well, when you start your consulting company, I will be your data analyst and spreadsheet superstar.
Oh.
I learned so many awesome
Don't you tease me. Like I would do any number of unpleasant things to get Becky to be on my team. You're amazing. All right. Okay, Becky, say goodbye to everybody. Everybody, As always, see you next week and stay safe and have fun.